birds have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. And the bird said nevermore.
You're listening to the Call Podcast with Brandon and Josh.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new edition of The Call. It is a Baltimore Ravens podcast where we talk anything and everything Baltimore Ravens football. Thank you all for listening to us on all of your favorite podcast platforms, especially Overcast. And we are proud members of the Fans First Sports Network. What's going on, everybody? It is a new season. It is the preseason, and I'm pretty sure we are live on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube right now. We are still trying to work out the kinks of when we are going to go live and when we are not. So this is good. This is the preseason, not just for the Baltimore Ravens, but for the Call as well, as we figure out how we work with this this new system that we got going on, which is pretty cool if we get to go live a little bit more than we did in the past. So joining me as always to talk all things Baltimore Ravens, my buddy Josh. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing, my friend? Welcome to it's the season's here, man. I mean, it was already started with training camp, but we're 2 nights away from preseason football at M&T, man. It's game week in preseason week terms. So we're back at it. It's Ravens football. It's football season. Dust off your purple and black attire because it's here, man. And the Ravens just came off the hinges of a successful stadium practice for the fans on Sunday. We're gearing up. It's ready. We're ready to roll. I can't wait, man.
Yeah, that's right. They had a big stadium practice. It was a lot of fans' first time getting to see some of the upgrades that are going into M&T Bank Stadium. And then right now, as we're recording this on Tuesday, the Ravens are hosting Indy and having a joint practice, and things got a little chippy. But before training camp started, I want to say that, on paper, this Baltimore Ravens team looked like it was ready to go, that there were very few questions on who was going to be making that final roster, who was going to be the final 53. And maybe like 50, 51 spots were completely ready to go, and we were like, all right, this is the team moving forward. There were maybe one or two spots open, but like the two that I was not worried about, the ones that I had questions about of who was going to be the starter, for me was left guard and kicker. And with Emory Jones Jr. not practicing, and with him not being on the field at all for OTAs or training camp, we haven't seen him at all. It looks like Andrew Voorhees will be the starter. I know he's still kind of battling with Ben Cleveland for the left guard spot. Yes, exactly. We had a Friday the 13th in June, so it's good to have Voorhees on this team. But it seems like him and Ben Cleveland were really like fighting for that spot. But we know Ben Cleveland and John Harbaugh have never really seen eye to eye. He's not his favorite player. So I think Andrew Voorhees is going to be the starter. And then the kicker was the other one. We didn't know if Tyler Loop was going to make it, but the Ravens have released the guy that he was competing up against. So the two spots that I kind of was looking at throughout training camp looks like they're going to be solidified already, and preseason game one isn't for another 2 days. So what are your thoughts going into the preseason game? Obviously, we're not going to see a lot of starters, but for me, the questions of who will be playing and who will be the starters, I mean, I really don't see a lot of spots, if any, that are still open.
Absolutely, man. Before we get into that, I can't miss this headline. So you said things got a little bit chippy at practice today. So let's break that down. So apparently there was a tussle. So that's the thing. The Ravens are doing a joint practice with Indy this coming week in lieu of ahead of their matchup for the preseason game. Apparently there was a fight that happened in practice.
Fisticuffs were thrown.
Yeah, so here's the details. Ready for this one. So apparently there was a fight between both teams. Kenyon Martin delivered a late punch to a player, Indy player. Apparently the player retaliated and then Nate Wiggins ran in and delivered several uppercuts. Good old Nate. Nate Dogg getting into the mix. Love it. Obviously, both sidelines cleared, and apparently Nate Wiggins was the headline was kicked out of practice. I read that.
Yes.
So, yeah, apparently benches cleared. There was altercations with both sides. Yeah, so my money is I don't think the Ravens took too kindly of the horseshoes coming back to Baltimore and on the Baltimore practice field because I did hear some speculations from the local media that I think that was the first time that you've seen a horseshoe on a practice field or any field. I mean, obviously they were on M&T's field when their opponent, but considering they were at the castle this week, they said it was the first time in over 40 years that you kind of seen that. So it was kind of like that was my first inclination. I said, well, maybe Nate and the gang didn't take too kindly that the horseshoe was back, even though these guys probably weren't even born when it happened. When the team got taken in '83. And we'll never forget that. And it's always something to talk about, whether it's preseason, regular season, or postseason. When these two teams tussle, it's always something to talk about with that. And when you remember that, you always, we always point to this. Indy fans, if you're listening, we'll settle this easily. We got the Johnny Unitas statue. You don't. Enough said. But yeah.
If people have never been to the stadium before, they should know there is a Johnny U statue out there, and the tradition is you got to rub his big toe before you go into the stadium for luck. And during the COVID years, they actually added that to the Ravens app. So like we couldn't go to games during those COVID seasons, but you could get on your phone on the app and then rub Johnny U's toe just for luck before the game started. So I mean,
never
that is
miss
the thing.
Tradition,
Johnny U is our
even
boy.
virtually. You don't miss a
That's
tradition
right.
virtually either. So, no, but you're getting back to your point, and I don't know. Everybody speculating, like I don't know if anything will come of this. It's practice. There's probably not going to be any fines or suspensions levied down from a practice fight. I mean, it's hard to imagine. I've seen it before, and you've seen it. It happens to other teams. Two teams in the heat of battle. It's early August, and everybody's chomping at the bit. And you're getting your first taste of not hitting your current roster, right? You got another opponent to hit, and obviously they get to do that live on Thursday night in a real simulated game. But I someone was asking me like, oh, somebody gonna get fined or suspended. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are when it comes to practices like that, but it happens across the league. Unfortunately, guys get chippy, guys get heated, but I have to kind of research that. But I don't expect anything negative to come out of this.
No, I don't either. I
Other
mean,
than like
they
maybe internal disciplinary actions, but I don't see like this isn't going to be like a Nate Wiggins suspension or anything like that. So don't worry.
No, he was kicked out of practice because John Harbaugh, our coach, of course, wants them to know, like, if you do this in a real game, you won't be playing the rest of the time. We saw that with Kyle Hamilton when he got kicked out of the game when they were in London. So these things do happen. Things get chippy, and that's what you want. You want to simulate a live game as much as you can because it's only 3 preseason games. It used to be 4. This is kind of their supplement for missing that 4th game in the preseason, and things got chippy. I don't know if you saw it, but Marlon Humphrey tried to interview Nate Wiggins in the locker room after he got kicked out, and Nate Wiggins wasn't too happy. He didn't want to play around. He wasn't joking around. He was pretty mad that he got to miss practice. So
read the room, Marlon. I know it's all
I
funny
think,
games, but come on, man.
Plenty of lessons were learned, I think, on this day.
Absolutely. But getting back to the roster, it's going to take shape, right? It's just what happens. You nail down to the final 53 as preseason rolls on. Some names out there you mentioned, like Voorhees, you're going to get to see him in action. We already know Tyler Loop's the guy. He's the kicker, right? He's the kicker for the future. It's been up and down. You hear him nail a 60-yarder, then he misses in the 40s. So apparently, like in the state, I don't know if it was stadium or at Owings Mills, but apparently he kicked a 68-yarder. So he's got the range. The problem is consistency, right? And like live game action. So my eyes will be on Loop as well on Thursday night to see how he lines up for how he looks in the extra points games and how the field goals look early on. You're going to get a first real game look at Tyler Loop as the kicker. And I look for that as being an improvement. Last year was an insane year for Tucker, man. He just fell off the earth. Obviously with everything that's going on with him personally off the field, you had to feel, and right? They had to have some form of mental. I lost for words. Yeah, I'm going mental. it affected his mentality heading into the
Right.
games because he was missing kicks and normally he's automatic one, and it was costing the Ravens games where, again, I kept shouting go for it because don't trot him out there because he can barely even make a 45-yarder, and when it's the truth, it's the truth, and it hurts sometimes. But also look for, there's some names here, and I want to pull them up. So I did some research on early camp and, of course, the stadium practice. So one receiver I'm going to highlight, Devontae Walker.
Right.
Remember his name because I think he's going to, I personally think he's going to make the final 53.
Yeah, because we know like the wide receiver 1, 2, and 3 are pretty much
Right.
solid, but wide receiver
Or maybe 4 with Tillman
that
Wallace.
Yeah,
well,
that
Tillman Wallace is there too.
the
So
one spot that is probably still open as we head into preseason.
yeah, it's the 5th receiver. Obviously,
Might have lost Josh. Okay.
I'm looking for, Devontae Walker to emerge as that wide receiver 5 on the roster, like you called it, right? You have Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, DeAndre Hopkins, and Tillman Wallace right there. I think that's the top 4. I think Devontae Walker will fill out the top 5 receiver core nicely there. There is a player to watch, another receiver, Keith Kirkwood. Look for him to hopefully emerge and make a case for himself on the roster. You never know, right? These receivers, just because they're labeled a wide receiver, special teams could be a spot for these guys in fielding punts and kicks. And right now, I don't think there's a name out there that jumps off the page that is an emerging player that's going to be that true number 1 guy to field punts and kicks right now. So I'm really, my eyes will be on special teams, right? With Tyler Loop, and then obviously who's back there fielding kicks in the preseason, and all eyes will be on that, and we'll unpack that as we roll on through the preseason. A couple other names out there. The resurgence of Keaton Mitchell coming off the injury from last season's injury. Apparently he had a great run in camp, and of course in the stadium practice it looked good. He had a nice run. Now obviously they're not tackling and all that, but it looks healthy. He was cutting on the field, looks clean. Can't wait to see what Keaton Mitchell do. This running attack with Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, and Keaton Mitchell, Ravens are stacked at running back, and I'm very excited for that as well. Another name going on the defensive side of the football, Mr. Mike Green. Mike Green is making plays all over the place, and I think he's going to be a force. When the Ravens drafted him, I was pretty excited about that, and my excitement still remains to this day. Brandon, I'm looking for Mike Green to just solidify himself in that linebacking core and pass rush and wreak havoc for the defense. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Mike Green as well. I mean, there's been a whole lot of buzz about this guy since he was drafted in the 2nd round. I think he's a guy that I don't know if his impact is going to be like fully felt this year, but he's definitely someone that the Ravens drafted for the future. He's kind of in a crowded spot right now with Odafe Oweh, Kyle Van Noy, kind of in that same spot, but those contracts are up after this season. So Mike Green is definitely going to be a guy that you're going to see in the preseason. He might be a little limited regular season comes, but if he makes a big enough impact in these preseason games, you can't deny the guy. And I think, maybe potentially you do see him a little bit more in the regular season.
Absolutely, man. I can't wait to see how it all pans out. And this is the exciting part, right? You're seeing jobs on the line, and who's who. And you might see some names that might surprise you. Then you might see some names that are just in everyday conversation. You're like, okay, they're going to make it. They're going to make it. And we know they're going to make the roster. So another name out there, Ravens backup. Now, obviously, he wasn't drafted, but Cooper Rush. Now, Cooper Rush was out there taking first-team reps on Monday because Lamar had an excused personal day, I should say. And apparently he looked crisp, looked good. I was, at the beginning, again, I've always said I was questioning the Ravens' acquisition of Cooper Rush because of the schemes, right? I've always said they employed certain backups for a reason. Tyler Huntley, Josh Johnson, RG3. They paid for the backups and got these specific backups because of the system they run. So knowing that what kind of quarterback Cooper Rush is, I label him as a pure pocket passer. I don't really see him as like that athletic dual threat quarterback as the Ravens like that scheme right now with Lamar, and that's how it is. It would be interesting to see what Rush does, and all eyes will be on how Cooper does. And you want him to do well, right? Because that's the insurance policy on Lamar. If, knock on wood, sorry, I hit the mic, if anything were to happen, you really want, Cooper to step in and do a nice job. So manage the offense, have his wits about him, clean, crisp passes all over the place and just manage the game. Yeah, and limit the turnovers is the big deal. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Cooper Rush looks with this type of offense, concerning what he had in Dallas. With that type of offense there. So that's a name I certainly wanted to throw out there.
Yeah, zero chance you're going to see Lamar Jackson on
No,
Thursday.
you're not going to
Absolutely
see any
zero
starters.
chance.
You're not going to see.
No.
You're not going to see the receiving core, the top three. You're not going to see Bateman. You're not going to see Flowers. You're not going to see Hopkins. Now, I would actually be surprised if you see Hopkins. Now, I also do get a chance to watch other preseason games. Obviously, we had our first taste of football last Thursday in the Hall of Fame game. Apparently, Will Disley, tight end, played for the Chargers. So, it was a surprising name. So again, I say Hopkins might not play, giving he's a new guy, yeah, he's a veteran. I don't think you're going to roll him out there given his veteran status and what he brings, but you don't know. This coaches might surprise us and roll him out there for a series or two to get him some reps. I don't think it would happen. My money would be on DeAndre Hopkins doesn't step the field in the preseason. You're not going to see Henry. You're not going to see the secondary. You're not going to see Roco. You're not going to see any of these guys. But again, who you're going to see is, I think, another name, TJ Tampa. He's been making his name for himself here early on, and look for TJ Tampa to have a good showing on defense. He apparently had some. Apparently, with practices this coming week, he had a takeaway and a pass breakup, and I think he could certainly be a focal point of the defense. Apparently, he forced a fumble on Keaton Mitchell and punched the ball out. So, given that Ravens mantra, going after that football and staying hungry and creating those turnovers, that's something that lacked all season last year, man. It's the inability for this defense to turn the ball over. They kept a lid on most offenses, right? Even though there were some offenses they gave them fits, the Ravens came out victorious in the end. I'm pointing to the Bengals game, right, where the secondary, and they let Jamar Chase just have a career day actually career 2 games against the Ravens. But I'm looking for the defense to really button up everything, force those turnovers, and on the other side, I want the offense. Care if it's the second or third stringers, guys. I want them to take care of the football. Just like everybody else, just take care of the football. Ravens take care of the football in the postseason. Who knows what noise they can make? And it's just the untimely mistakes at the crucial times that just kill you. And I think I not only player performances in the preseason, but I also look for like that evaluation for myself. I'm looking at how clean is everything. Are you guys catching the passes that you need to, especially if you're wide open? Are you running the proper routes? Are you running crisp routes? These are NFL caliber players. They might not be true, surefire first team starters. Doesn't matter. They're playing for a roster spot, and hey, they're out there trying to make our NFL roster, and we're not. They're athletes. They're the best of the best for a reason, and I don't take them lightly. And I'm looking for the Ravens to really hone in on the game plan and the schemes. There is just taking it all in and reining all the mistakes in from past seasons and just putting your best foot forward in 25 and being sharper and being crisper. But preseason, you might get the jitters. You might get some errant passes from Rush. You might get, not on the same page because obviously this is Cooper's new team. These are lesser known receivers than most people are. That most people aren't familiar with. Ravens are familiar with them, but we're not as fans. So there could be a chemistry issue. So I feel like don't get too hard if you see some miscommunication out there, but it all goes hand in hand. I'm looking for, no injuries, of course, but a clean presentation of a game and seeing how they go. And I really can't wait, man. Breaking down the first preseason game is always a fun thing because it's the first look. It's your first looks at everybody, and it's going to be fun to see the aftermath and see how they come out. And obviously, you want a victorious, right? You want a victorious game, but at the same time, scoreboard is not what matters, right? In these kind of games, you obviously Harbaugh's always said, yeah, you want to win these games. I mean, the Ravens have won 23 of these in a row in seasons past, so it was a fun streak to talk about until the Commanders blew it, but. But then it just didn't matter. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's always been said. There's a scoreboard and there's points. The Ravens want to win that too, but I'm looking for a lot of situational things and getting down to the nuts and bolts in football. I'm also looking for a 2-minute offense. How's their 2-minute offense look? Again, special teams. How's Tyler Loop looking pressure? Can he nail a field goal with seconds left? I really can't wait to see how it all unfolds. And there's a lot to go into a preseason game production and a lot to look out for on the field. And being there live, you get to take it all in. And I can't wait to be down at the bank with all the fans and taking in preseason football, man. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Now the other spot you have to look at just as like a safety net is what's going to happen at tight end. Now, obviously, Mark Andrews, he's still a part of this team very much so. Everyone's singing his praises during training camp that he has worked really hard. But Isaiah Likely, Isaiah Likely hasn't been practicing due to an injury that he got last week. I believe he's got something wrong with his ankle, so he's out. But they're saying he could be out a couple weeks, but he could make week 1. But the main word there, the big word there is could make week 1. So that is something that everyone has to think about. So you got to look for Charlie Kolar and then potentially someone else to shine during this preseason, because tight end potentially could be up in the air come week 1. We saw what happened just a couple seasons ago with Marlon Humphrey. He had a foot issue. He had, I believe, a surgery done, and it was kind of like, all right, he's going to be back this week, and he would come back, and then he'd have to take another week off. He kind of had an up and down season 2 years ago. So that could be the same thing with Isaiah Likely. They're not going to put him out there week 1 if he's, at 80%. So tight end positions, that definitely could be a question mark moving forward. Charlie Kolar looks to be the next guy in line, but with this preseason game, is there somebody there that's going to make a play that's going to kind of turn everybody's head and go, ooh, maybe this guy could be, tight end 3 or be there if Isaiah Likely isn't. So that's another spot that I'll be looking for as well.
Absolutely, man, and we certainly wish all the best Isaiah Likely in his full recovery. It's not a danger for him to be on the PUP list right now. Luckily it's early in the preseason and early right now in camp where, it's a foot fracture. It's not like a huge clean break. Apparently the timetable is, I heard, anywhere from 48 weeks, and puts him right around week 1. If he's not ready for week 1, fine. Let him get ready for week 2. Even if he's missing the first 2 or 3 games, let him get healthy. It's certainly unfortunate to see because he had an emergence starting the season last year where Isaiah Likely was technically tight end 1 at this point, and then Mark Andrews came on late in the season. Mark Andrews finished the season with 11 touchdowns in his own right, and unfortunately, a lot of fans are going to remember what happened recently, right, in the postseason with Mark Andrews and the turnovers and the inability to bring in that catch with those wet gloves. So, but no excuses this time. Turn the page. It's 25, but I expect, there's always chemistry there with Lamar and Mark Andrews, and I'm not expecting that to take a back seat, right? It's waiting in the wings. Who are the other guys that are going to emerge out there? And looking at the makeup of the tight end position, I'm actually pulling up some of the roster at this point because I kind of want to go over, like to you mentioned, who would be the tight end there right now as it stands. They only have 2 other players on the roster currently right now for the Ravens. It's Baylor Cupp and Zaire Mitchell-Payton as the listed tight ends. The Ravens have 5 tight ends listed on their roster right now in their depth chart. So obviously I feel like, making the case, obviously we feel like it's going to be Mark Andrews, Kolar, and Likely. It's going to be your 3 tight ends. But you're going to see Mitchell-Payton and Cupp. There's guys going to be out there making plays that say, hey, is it going to be a situation where the Ravens put one of those guys on the active roster until Likely can come back and then kind of send them down to the practice squad? It's kind of like how things happen in the NFL. There's no, like how in baseball you have the AAA teams and you can send people down for assignment. NBA is a little different in how they work things there, but it isn't where it's 53 men. So you have to understand what positions are you going to put in. And I feel like the Ravens know, right? It could be positional, but again, it's about the best 53 men to make up the roster, and I can't wait to see what the tight end position looks like as that battle for that tight end 2. If Likely's not a go in week 1, I personally don't expect them to be go week 1. We love them to be out there, but I'd rather him get fully healthy for this long stretch run of the season, man. You have, the Ravens do have a grueling schedule right in the beginning, and when you're playing away at Buffalo and away at Arrowhead against the Chiefs in the first 4 weeks of the season, and you kind of hope. My mark would be to get Likely back for the Monday night game against the Lions and then have him for that game and then the Chiefs game. And if we can get out of the first 2 games without Likely, and if the Ravens are boasting at a 500 record, or hey, if they're 2-0, great. The worst thing would be in the world would be an 0-2 start, and then obviously if the tight end position is suffering there. The other injury one was Zay Flowers, right? Apparently he's the lesser of the two evils with the injury bug. It's day to day. Apparently he just missed a few practices. He's still being held out, in practices, and he's easing his way back in, but there's no long-term effects there with the leg injury. And there's some speculation that it could be the same injury aggravated last year, but you just can't take things too careful when it comes to these players. So I expect Zay Flowers to certainly be out there. You're not going to see him for preseason, but Zay Flowers will be back out there in practices and be fully ready to go for week 1.
Well, I mean, it is preseason week 1 against the Indianapolis Colts. We call them Indy when they come here to Baltimore. But Josh, have we covered everything for this episode of The Call?
Not so fast, my friend.
Uh-oh.
I got more nuggets to share, man. But no, we have not covered everything on this.
You got more boneless wings with ranch, is what you're saying. Not
No,
nuggets.
no blue cheese. No, we need blue cheese. So speaking of, and this came out from Adam Schefter this week, so I want to give credit to that. This was a pretty unique stat. Here you go. So remember the 2018 draft class for the Ravens that included Lamar Jackson.
Right.
Listen to these names that they drafted. Some are still in the Ravens, some aren't, obviously. Hayden Hurst, Lamar Jackson, Orlando Brown Jr., Mark Andrews, Anthony Everett, Deshaun Elliott, Brad Bozeman, Zach Seiler, Darius Williams, and Gus Edwards. Now, Darius Williams and Gus Edwards were undrafted, so they weren't part of that class, but they were selected as undrafted and were put on the roster that year. So apparently they're still included in that draft class, but they weren't really officially drafted with the Ravens. The Ravens draft ended that year with Zach Seiler, but listen to this awesome news from Adam Schefter. Another great accolade in Ravens history. The 2018 draft for the Ravens has generated has generated more money in future contracts than any other draft class in NFL history.
Wow.
Think about that. Now here's the breakdown. Hayden Hurst is earning $7.5 million or 7.25 average. Lamar's $52 million average. Orlando Brown Jr. $16 million average. Mark Andrews $14. Everett's $4 million. Deshaun Elliott $6.25 million. Bozeman at $6. Zeiler is $22 million. And Williams is $10 million, and Gus Edwards was $5 million average. Think about that. That's pretty impressive.
That's amazing.
Not only is that amazing, but think about the nuances of that draft. Obviously, the Ravens drafted Hayden Hurst first, and then they jump back to get Lamar Jackson. Then they go back and get the second tight end, and Mark Andrews is obviously, we know who he is, right? What's interesting about that draft is that was the last year that Ozzie Newsome had his thumbprint on the draft. It was kind of like a tandem effort, right? Ozzie was there, but it was kind of like the transition. It was like the EDC, like passing the torch, but then Ozzie's falling off. Apparently that was that year. So 2018 was a special year in Ravens history. That was pretty cool accolades. When that came out, that was a pretty awesome stat.
If you're Ozzie Newsome, you're going out with a bang. He made sure this was his best draft class, and it's still showing the fruits of his labor. He's still going. And you're feeling the effects of Ozzie, even though he has retired since then. I mean, it is amazing. That guy was he knew absolutely what he was doing.
Absolutely. And pass the torch nicely.
Yes.
There's a reason why Eric DeCosta he turned down jobs. Apparently, I heard he even turned down the GM job for the Green Bay Packers.
Wow.
To stay here waiting in the wings for the Baltimore Ravens job, since he knew he was going to take over for Ozzie. So, and Eric's kind of been a lifer here. He's been on the staff for many years, and for him to wait in the wings because he probably already knew he was going to be the successor, and he was like, hey, why go anywhere else? So apparently he was groomed for other jobs, front office jobs, and he chose to stay here, and he's done a bang-up job so far and for this offseason, right? But the acquisition of not only free agent DeAndre Hopkins, adding the veteran receiver, but going at Jair Alexander. I kind of want to touch on him real quick. It's interesting for him because I don't know if he's going to get preseason reps. He's a veteran. I would be surprised if Alexander's thrown out there. You could see a situation where he would get some reps just to get his feet under him and get used to the atmosphere, get used to this team. But being a part of the first team defense, I don't see a situation where veterans like that would jump on the field at that point. Apparently, he said he's 90%. The report is that he's 90% done learning this defensive playbook. So he's coming up to speed pretty quickly. And I'm chomping at the bit to see what everybody's all eyes, right? All right, preseason get over with. We want week 1 because we want it to mean something and we want the starters to be in the field and see the full team at its full power. And also, we all can't wait to exact revenge around here against Buffalo. The Ravens fans feel slighted and I'm sure Lamar didn't care, right? He wants the Super Bowl, but a lot of Ravens fans feel slighted that, he was wrongly not named his third MVP last year, given the season that he had. It was a tremendous season, but unfortunately, got to put it behind you. Obviously, it ended a playoff loss and made some mistakes there. So all eyes are going to be on week 1 in a month when the Ravens are playing in Buffalo on September 7th. And they're recording now this week, first week of preseason. We're a month away from real football. I mean, September 4th is rolling around pretty quickly. That's Eagles-Cowboys open the season. Ravens are going to open on the road on Sunday Football in Buffalo. I can't wait to get it started, but unfortunately, you got to get through the roster. You got to whittle down to the 53. You have to make the final cuts. You got to get through these preseason games and get the evaluations done and get healthy. These things have to happen. But as fans, we're a month away, guys. It's here, and it's going to go by very quickly. Enjoy the last legs of your summer, your last legs of August, because, Brandon, fall's here, football's here, and let me tell you, the stores are ready because I saw candy corn and skeletons in the stores already. And it was July 31st, and I'm checking out, and I seen candy corn at the kiosk there checkout. So I was like, they don't miss a beat, do they? I guess Christmas decorations will be out by October at this point.
Absolutely. I mean, I hope you pick me up a bag of candy corn or those little mallow pumpkins or something like that. I mean,
I got you covered, and not only I got you covered, but folks are surprised. They're like, "You enjoy candy corn? It's like eating candles. It's like wax and sugar." I'm like, "Hey, I don't know why, but it's good. I
what's
enjoy
wrong
it.
with that? It's a
Nothing wrong with that.
Little things, little triangles.
I
Of
like what I
sugar.
like. Come on,
Yeah.
at least we can agree on some candy corn, but not our wing sauce or wing
That's
dipping
right.
sauce, let's just say. But it'd be boring if we're all the same. We got to be different in some areas. But Brandon, I really can't wait to get this going. Can't wait to break it down with you on the aftermath of the game on Thursday and break it all down. We'll be here for the raw call reaction coming next week, and then we'll be rolling right into preseason game number 2. But with that being said, yes, we have covered everything on the show. With darkness there and nothing more. Quote the Raven, nevermore.
All right, everybody. Well, if you would like to continue the conversation with Josh or I, you can. You can check us out over on Discord, discord.gg/thecallpodcast. You can join our server over there. You can also follow us on social media. I am on X and Blue Sky at Brando Cash. Josh, where can people follow you at?
Always follow me on X at AJ_Murr.
So check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/thecallpodcast. Let us know if you enjoy us doing this live stream, and we can continue doing these live streams as we go throughout the season on Facebook. We are also on Twitch, and you can check us out on YouTube as well. Brando Cash Pods is where you can check us out over on YouTube and Twitch. Make sure you write us a review. Write us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Rate us, review us, do all that good stuff. Be social with the show. Let everybody know. Say, I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan, I listen to The Call, and you should too. So that is pretty much it for the show this week. It's Ravens, it's Indy preseason, week 1, the only chance to see the Ravens in the preseason at the bank this year. They're going on the road for the last 2. So Josh, take us out the way you always do.
You betcha, Brandon. At the bank for preseason football, and even Jimmy's is already ready. They got their preseason tailgate already ready to go. Hey, it feels like it's the regular season already, man. We got the tailgates flowing. Tailgates will be great. Everybody be down at the bank on Thursday night for Thursday night football, but it's preseason style. But hey, doesn't matter, man. We support our Ravens through it all, and I can't wait to get back down there with everybody, seeing all the fans. I'll be taking my brother, his girlfriend, and her kids, and really can't wait to be down there in the atmosphere, just enjoying it. And for me, Brandon, it's the only time I actually get to relax and enjoy football without it getting rowdy and ruckus. Because, like, I show up and I'm in my shorts and I'm just, like, sprawled out. I'm relaxing. I'm like, I have to stand up and cheer on defense. And I have to, I have my voice still. I'm like, it's the only chance I get to actually sit in the stadium and relax. So I actually partake and enjoy it, but can't wait. I know some of my friends were down at the stadium practice and everybody had a ball. It was great to see the Ravens back on the practice field. I was able to catch some highlights. I didn't attend stadium practice, but I was able to see some of the highlights there. And the Ravens, hey, from what I saw, they look good. Again, Keith Mitchell was running good, crisp runs, and defense was making plays. Lamar was out there zinging balls, looked good. It was great to see the Ravens back on the practice field in front of the fans at M&T Bank as the stadium practice opened everything up for the preseason this week. And I really can't wait to get after it. If you've been out there in Owings Mills in training camp, or if you're at the stadium practice, love to hear from you. Hit us up on the socials, the Call Facebook page. Love to hear how your experiences was. And also, what are your takes on the preseason? Who do you like to see emerge? Do you agree with some of the names that we brought up? Is there some names that we forgot about that, hey, you might want to take a look at this player? I feel like this player could emerge. So we love to hear from you. We love interacting with each and every one of you, but we're here. 2025 Baltimore Ravens season, NFL season is upon us. With that being said, to the preseason we go. And let's beat Indy, shall we? Always good to beat Indy. I don't care if it counts or not. Baltimore Ravens, let's fly high.